In this video, we're going to talk about how to do political canvassing, how to do it well, ways that it is done. Now, you're going to get a better answer to this question of how it's done than you will anywhere else on YouTube, so stay with me. There are two kinds of political canvassing that we're going to cover and do a deep dive in this video. One is the kind of canvassing that you do with volunteers. The other is the kind of canvassing that you do if it's just you, the candidate. They're both a little bit different, and there's a nuance that we need to cover in some detail here. So let's start with the volunteers. With volunteers, it begins with what I call precision targeting. You don't want to send volunteers to knock on every door in your entire community, because you know what you're going to do? You're going to waste a lot of their time, because they're going to encounter people at households that are not registered to vote. They're going to encounter people at households who say they only vote in presidential elections and they never bother to vote in any elections in between. If you're running in a primary, they're going to encounter people who are not eligible to vote in your primary. That's a waste of time, manpower, and resources. So what you want your volunteers to do is to get something out of every household whose door they knock on. And therefore, you have to decide what doors you're going to give them to knock on. So narrow it down to people who are eligible to vote in your election and people who are likely to vote in your election. Those are two different things, eligible and likely. And make sure that is the first list that you send your volunteers out to knock on. Now, there is a way to format that list. Don't just give them a spreadsheet and say, here are 100 addresses in this neighborhood, go out and knock on each of them. You know what's going to happen to the volunteer? They're going to be all over the place. They're going to go first person maybe over here, second person over there, third person over there. They're walking yards or hundreds of feet between doors, and it's taking forever. What you want to do is create for them what we call a walk list. That is, of all the houses in this community, there are only certain doors you want them to knock on. And you want to make that route for them as efficient as possible. I'm going to compare this to an Amazon truck driver whose truck is loaded with maybe 150 packages for delivery that day. Now, Amazon is a pretty well-run company. And what they're going to do before that driver leaves the warehouse with a truckload of packages is they're going to give that driver a map. And that map is going to be however many places they're stopping that day. Let's say 100 different households. That map tells them this is household 1, and this is household 2, and this is the shortest way to get there. And then there's the shortest way to get to household 3 and 4, and so on until they have finished the route. That saves the driver time because he's taking the most efficient route, and it saves gas because it takes less time to get it done in a shorter driving distance. You want to do the same thing with your volunteers, because if they cannot make sense of the lists you're giving them, or if they're not correctly put in the right order, what is going to happen is it's taking your volunteer twice the time to get the route done that they thought it was going to take. And what happens is you're going to end up with your list in a trash can somewhere. The volunteer is going to leave and may never come back. The second point I want to make about using volunteers is volunteers need a little bit of training. And I'm going to start with the clothes that they wear when they're out canvassing for you. They are a representative of your campaign, even if you're not paying them a salary. Make sure that they are well dressed and well groomed and given some training in how to be polite, even when they encounter a voter who really does not like you and is not afraid to tell your volunteer why. Just tell them this: thank you for your opinion, ma'am. I respect your opinion. I'm going to go talk to somebody else now. Get them out of that conversation. The last thing you want is a volunteer getting into some vociferous argument with a little old lady in front of a house, because the neighbors are going to know, and you know what? They're going to turn on their cell phones, and you're going to find that on YouTube at the end of the day. The next thing to mention about the volunteers is the way you collect and use the data that they come back with. So let's suppose your volunteers have been told to discern whether a voter is for you, or whether a voter is undecided, or whether a voter is going to be with the other candidate. You want to make use of that data, and there are two ways. You can send your volunteers out with a clipboard and have them keep track of the doors they've knocked on, and you do it on paper and they make notes. That's the old-fashioned way to do it. However, now there is technology called door-to-door apps. It's an app, it's a piece of software that they can load into their cell phones so that when they're done knocking on a household door, they know exactly where they're going to go next. They have a map that tells them exactly how to get there in the fewest steps possible. They know the name of the person whose door they're about to knock on. They know how old that person is. They know that person's voting history, and fully prepared to talk to a senior when a senior answers a door that the app has told them contains somebody who's a senior citizen. When they get done with their route, you want to be able to download that data and use it. For example, if they've learned that a voter is not for you, get them off your targeting list. If they've learned that a voter is for you, make a note to make sure that person votes. If they've learned that a voter is still undecided in your race, get them some more information so that they can make an informed decision. It does no good to send those volunteers out to canvass and have them come back with no useful information that they glean from it. The point of canvassing is for them to learn something from the conversations. Now, let's turn to you, the candidate. In a small jurisdiction, I'm going to recommend that you do most of the door knocking, because for this simple reason: engaging voters at their front door is the most effective advertising you can possibly do. And if you live in a jurisdiction that's small enough for you to go knock on the door of every eligible voter, then do it that way. Now, likewise, like the volunteers, you need to be dressed for the part, and you need to look like someone who is worth talking to. And it's okay for you to wear a badge or a t-shirt or a jacket that clearly identifies you as a candidate. In fact, they are more likely to open that door for you if they can see that you are a candidate for office. If the person opens the door, what you want to do is get in listening mode. You say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm running for city council. You know, I got a lot of ideas on how to improve this city. But before we talk about that, can I ask you what's on your mind? Are you having a particular problem in this neighborhood? Are you happy with the services that you're getting from the city?" This is a polite way to get a voter to talk to you. If that voter will talk to you and feels comfortable with you, they're going to give you tons of useful information. If you spend most of your time listening, you're more likely to get the vote of that voter because they're flattered that you stood there and listened to them talk. This is the wrong thing to do. "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm running for city council. let me give you my 16-point plan on how I'm going to improve the city. You do that and their eyes are going to glaze over and they're going to try and get rid of you just as quickly as they can. Always take some literature that you can leave with them in case you've encountered a voter that needs to be persuaded. If they do not open the door, take out that piece of literature that you're going to hang on their doorknob and handwrite a note that says, "Sorry, I missed you," and sign your name. That lets them know that you at least tried to come by their house that day to say hello and have a chat. When you have concluded the conversation with a voter, before you get to the next household, on a piece of paper or in the app that you might be using, make a note about something that you discussed or something unique about that person. Maybe it was the dress that they were wearing or the clothes that they had on. Maybe it was the potted plant that was on their front porch, or maybe you met their dog and was introduced. When you get home that night, go through your notes, something unique that you remembered about every conversation you had with the voter that day. Send them a handwritten note thanking them for the conversation. It says, "So enjoyed our talk today, so enjoyed meeting your dog Rover. I appreciated your time. If you ever need to reach me, here is my personal cell number," and give them the number. I can't tell you how effective that tactic is. I've had candidates do that in the past, and he, when he's monitoring polling stations on election day, has seen people walk in with the handwritten note that he sent them, going in and saying, "I want to vote for this guy. He came by my house and talked to me. Tell me where this guy is on the ballot." It is magic if you take the time to send that handwritten note. Now, I mentioned that it's easy to go door to door in a small jurisdiction, but if you've got a jurisdiction where you got any more than 5,000 households, you may not be able to do that all by yourself. You are going to need volunteers. So while this is fresh in your mind, I'm going to direct your attention to another video that may be helpful to you. How to recruit volunteers for a political campaign. Click on the link, watch it, because it will help you create a big volunteer force that can help you. If you are running for office or plan to someday, I have a free gift for you. The link is underneath this video. 12 essential steps to prepare for a political campaign. It's yours, it's free. Click the link and it'll be on its way to you.